Hi, this is Tutor Nick P, and this is lesson 360. The title of today's lesson is the 5 of the most common mispronunciations by students that are learning English as a second language. So students that are studying, ESL, English as a second language. Okay. Let's look now. The first grouping, or the first group of them, is words that have a CC combination. So let's look at the note here. The combination of CC is pronounced like KS if it is followed by an E or an I. Now this is where students make the most mistakes. I have often corrected students about this, and this one always eventually comes up by some different students. Even the same students sometimes will forget and they will repeat it. So this one you should really pay attention to. First, let me pronounce it the correct way. Remember, this one should have a KS sound, so we should say suck, ses. So the first C is pronounced like a K, and the second C is pronounced like an S, just like access. Okay, vaccine. Okay, so the CC followed by an I or an E has that sound. Now, what do most students do when they do it wrong? They usually pronounce it as almost like a double S. They usually say success. He has a lot of success. No, he has a lot of success. Or, I have access to his computer, not SS. Or, vaccine. Somebody doesn't want to get a vaccine, something like that. Okay, let's look at number, let's continue here with the CC, because you do come across some other CC combinations that's pronounced a little differently. So the combination of CC, or the combination is anything other than an E or an I, it is pronounced like a hard K. So if you get a CC combination and it's not followed by an E or an I, then it's pronounced like a hard K. Okay. So again, let me give you the correct pronunciation first. So accuse. So almost think of it like the first C is silent and the second C is just like a K or a hard K. So the correct way would be accuse, occur, occupy, accurate, zucchini. All right, zucchini we'll come back to later because this is a word we borrow from Italian. I'm going to explain that soon as well. All right, good. So, all right, let's look at the third part of a CC combination. Pronounce CC like CH in some words borrowed from Italian. Yeah, so I studied Italian. I know this. I know C before an I or an E is pronounced like a CH. You might see this often in, very, very common word. We say ciao. It's become an international word for like goodbye. Although in Italy, it actually is both hello and goodbye, but most people know it as goodbye. We say ciao, ciao. And remember, when people see this in English, sometimes they always think, why is this pronounced ciao? It should be like ciao or something. No, it's ciao because C before I or an E in Italian is pronounced like a CH. All right, so here's some, very common examples. Most people know cappuccino. Coffee is very, very popular these days, so most people already know that is pronounced cappuccino. Fettuccine, another type of Italian noodle. So these words are borrowed directly from Italian. All right, so going back to zucchini, there's another rule in Italian too. If you have a CH before an I or an E, that's pronounced like a K. So that's why this is zucchini. It's not so much the hard K rule, it's actually also from Italian. Again, the first C is kind of silent, but the CH before an I or an E in Italian is a K sound. So these type of noodles are zucchini. Yeah. Oh no, this vegetable is zucchini. Yeah, sorry about that. But we do get that word from Italian. Okay, so let's continue with the next one that's really, really common. Is to do with, between photograph, photographer, and photography. And I think what confuses students is most students have no problem with photograph. But because of photograph, I think it confuses them about the other ones. Because the way the syllables are broken up, in photograph is 3 syllables, photograph. And they kind of follow that same sort of way of pronouncing it when they see photographer. So they usually say photographer, and that's wrong. It's not photographer, it's a photographer. See, it's faux, but again, the second syllable, now when it becomes four syllable, the TOG sound goes together. So where before it was TO and the graph was all one syllable, now it's photographer. So photographer. So a photographer, not a photographer. And the same problem is with photography. Photography is correct, but students will often say photography, which is also wrong. So be careful about that one. All right, let's look at number 3 here. A lot of students have problems between the word snake and snack. Okay, so probably one of the best ways to try to do this is forget about the SN sound, because that is exactly the same in both, and focus on the end of the word. Of course, in snake, you should be just focusing on ache, and snack, you should just focus on ack. So in this case, it makes it easier. It's easier to see the difference between ache and ack. So you could do this right. So again, we have one common example here, like somebody might say, I want a snack. Okay, but if the student pronounces it wrong, they say, I want a snake. You know, it could sound pretty funny. Most people don't. Even though in Asia, sometimes people do eat snake. Years ago, I had snake soup. I think, you know, it's the common thing. People say it tastes like chicken. But in most cases, people would say, snake? You want a snake? You want to eat snake? Are you sure you want to eat snake? Where most people really just simply say they want a snack. A snack is very common. Okay, so let's look at the fourth one here. That's a big problem for a lot of ESL students. I often notice that when a lot of students see the word imagine, I-M-A-G-I-N-E, spelled out, they often pronounce it as image. You know, image is a real word. Image means a picture, but they both have something to do with, like, you know, photos or seeing pictures, but they're completely different words. The noun of imagine is actually imagination. These are the pictures you see in your mind. Image is more like a real photograph or some sort of drawing that is actually an image. So again, we give an example here. Somebody might say, you know, I cannot imagine it. And students will, you know, often incorrectly say, I cannot image it. And that would confuse a Western. You can't image it? What are you trying to say? But imagine means you can't see the pictures. You can't even think of it. You can't imagine it. You can't even get those pictures in your head. All right, so be careful of that one. All right, all right, let's look at the last one, which could also, you know, cause possibly an embarrassing situation if you pronounce it wrong. The difference between version and virgin. A lot of students have problems with this. Again, I would probably focus more on the end, because the beginning sound, the ver sound, is the same in both. That's what probably causes most confusion. So version, meaning, you know, another type or style of something similar, especially a movie, you know, maybe they could have a new version of that movie. And virgin, we know, very different meaning. This means somebody who, you know, has never had sexual relations yet. Either a boy or a girl, doesn't really matter which one. Either one could be a virgin. So again, here's the example sentence, you know, I like the other version. All right, meaning you like, you know, maybe there was 2 versions of a movie and you like this one better than that one. But if the student says I like the other version, has a very different meaning. And it might even get you in trouble, or somebody might actually laugh at you. They'll figure out, virgin? How many virgins do you have? You only want to have virgins? I like the other virgin. You're just trying to have virgins. So it could cause an embarrassing or possibly even a funny situation. Hopefully the Westerner would figure out that you don't really mean virgin. You might get some strange looks if you say this one wrong. So anyway, just be careful. Again, focus on the end of the word. So the jeune and jin. You know, if you look at it that way, it sounds very different. Virgin, virgin. So jeune, jin sounds pretty different. That hopefully will help. Okay, anyway, I hope you got it. I hope this was very informative and useful for you. Thanks for your time. Bye-bye.